The Trump presidency was marked by significant shifts in U.S. trade policy. These changes were not just minor adjustments but rather sweeping reforms that aimed to redefine America's position in the global market. One of the most impactful decisions was the imposition of tariffs on goods from various countries, most notably China. These tariffs were intended to protect American industries and reduce the trade deficit. These tariffs ignited a trade war with global consequences. The ripple effects were felt across multiple sectors, from agriculture to technology, affecting both businesses and consumers. But what if Trump had chosen a different path? What if instead of imposing tariffs, he had opted for a more collaborative approach with international partners? This essay explores the potential outcomes if those tariffs had never been implemented. Would the U.S. economy have fared better or worse? How would global trade dynamics have shifted? This is not a simple question of right or wrong. The issue is layered with complexities that require a nuanced understanding. It's a complex issue with far-reaching implications. The decision to impose tariffs affected not just the U.S., but also its trading partners and the global economy at large. By analyzing the potential impacts on consumer costs, trade relationships, supply chains, U.S. manufacturing, the global economy, and the job market, we can gain a more comprehensive view of the situation. We can gain a deeper understanding of the trade-offs involved. Each decision in trade policy comes with its own set of benefits and drawbacks. Join us as we delve into this hypothetical scenario and examine the potential consequences. Through this exploration, we aim to shed light on the intricate web of factors that influence trade policy and its outcomes. Tariffs are essentially taxes on imported goods. When these taxes are imposed, the cost of those goods increases for consumers. This can lead to higher prices for a wide range of products, from electronics and clothing to automobiles and groceries. In the absence of Trump's tariffs, it's plausible that consumer costs would have remained lower. Lower prices could have boosted consumer purchasing power, allowing people to buy more goods and services. This, in turn, could have stimulated economic growth. However, it's also important to acknowledge that tariffs can sometimes have the unintended consequence of protecting domestic industries from foreign competition. This protection can lead to higher prices for consumers in the long run. Trump's tariffs created significant tension in international trade relationships. Many countries retaliated with their own tariffs on U.S. goods, leading to a tit-for-tat trade war. This escalated conflict disrupted global trade patterns and created uncertainty for businesses worldwide. Without the tariffs, it's likely that trade relationships would have remained more stable. The absence of a trade war could have fostered greater cooperation and predictability in the global trading system. This stability could have benefited businesses engaged in international trade, reducing costs and promoting economic growth. Global supply chains are intricate networks that connect businesses across borders. They rely on the smooth flow of goods and services to operate efficiently. Trump's tariffs introduced disruptions and uncertainty into these supply chains, forcing businesses to adjust their sourcing strategies and navigate increased costs. Without the tariffs, supply chains could have remained more stable and predictable. This stability could have translated into lower costs for businesses and consumers alike. However, it's also worth considering that some argue that tariffs can incentivize companies to diversify their supply chains and reduce reliance on single sources, potentially enhancing long-term resilience. Section 5. Made in America, U.S. Manufacturing and the Global Marketplace. One of the stated goals of Trump's tariffs was to protect and revitalize U.S. manufacturing. The idea was that by making imported goods more expensive, tariffs would encourage consumers to buy American-made products, thereby boosting domestic manufacturing. The impact of tariffs on U.S. manufacturing is complex and subject to debate. While some argue that tariffs provided a much-needed boost to certain industries, others contend that they ultimately harmed American manufacturers by increasing the cost of imported inputs and sparking retaliatory tariffs that hurt U.S. exports. Section 6. Ripples in the pond. The global economy and the butterfly effect. The global economy is interconnected. Events in one part of the world can have ripple effects that are felt far and wide. Trump's tariffs introduced a significant element of uncertainty and volatility into the global economy. impacting trade flows, investment decisions, and overall economic growth. Without the tariffs, the global economy may have experienced a period of greater stability and predictability. This stability could have fostered economic growth and reduced the likelihood of trade tensions escalating into full-blown trade wars. However, it's important to acknowledge that other factors, such as technological advancements and geopolitical events, also play a significant role in shaping the global economic landscape. Section 7. Jobs, the labor market, and the tariff debate. The impact of tariffs on the job market is a topic of much debate. Tariffs, which are taxes imposed on imported goods, can have far-reaching effects on various sectors of the economy. They are often used as a tool to protect domestic industries from foreign competition, but their implications are complex and multifaceted. Proponents of tariffs argue that they protect American jobs by shielding domestic industries from foreign competition. They believe that by making imported goods more expensive, consumers will be more likely to buy domestically produced products, thereby supporting local businesses and preserving jobs in manufacturing, agriculture, and other sectors. Opponents counter that tariffs can actually lead to job losses in sectors that rely on imported goods or are hurt by retaliatory tariffs. For instance, industries that depend on imported raw materials may face higher costs, which can lead to reduced profitability and potential layoffs. Additionally, other countries may impose their own tariffs in response, negatively impacting American exporters. Without Trump's tariffs, the job market may have evolved differently. The absence of these tariffs could have led to a more open trade environment, potentially fostering greater international collaboration and economic growth. This might have resulted in a different distribution of jobs across various sectors. It's possible that certain industries that benefited from tariff protection may have faced greater competition from foreign companies, potentially impacting employment levels. For example, domestic manufacturers might have struggled to compete with cheaper imported goods, leading to job losses in those industries. However, it's also plausible that other sectors, such as those that rely on imported inputs or benefit from strong export markets, could have thrived in a tariff-free environment, creating new job opportunities. For instance, technology companies that depend on imported components might have seen lower production costs, enabling them to expand and hire more workers. Similarly, agricultural exporters could have benefited from reduced trade barriers, opening up new markets and boosting employment in rural areas. Section 8. The two sides of the coin, balancing the tariff equation. The decision to impose tariffs is a complex one with no easy answers. It involves a delicate balancing act between protecting domestic interests and engaging in fair international trade. There are valid arguments to be made on both sides of the issue. Proponents argue that tariffs can shield local industries from foreign competition, allowing them to grow and create jobs. On the one hand, tariffs can be used to protect domestic industries, address unfair trade practices, and generate government revenue. For instance, they can help nascent industries develop without being overwhelmed by established foreign competitors. On the other hand, they can also lead to higher prices for consumers as the cost of imported goods rises. This can affect everything from groceries to electronics, making everyday life more expensive. Retaliatory tariffs from trading partners can further complicate matters, leading to a tit-for-tat escalation that can harm international relations and trade. And disruptions to global supply chains. These disruptions can affect the availability of goods and raw materials, impacting industries that rely on international trade. Ultimately, the decision of whether or not to impose tariffs is a political one that must weigh the potential costs and benefits. Policymakers must consider the broader economic implications and the potential for unintended consequences. In the case of Trump's tariffs, the long-term impacts on the U.S. economy and its trading partners remain a subject of debate and analysis. Economists and policymakers continue to study the effects, looking for lessons that can inform future trade policies. Section 9. Looking back, moving forward, a nuanced perspective on trade. As we reflect on the potential consequences of Trump's tariffs, it's essential to approach the issue with nuance and recognize the complexity of the global trading system. There are no easy answers or predictable outcomes when it comes to trade policy. The world is interconnected, and decisions made in one country can have far-reaching implications. As we move forward, it's crucial to engage in thoughtful dialogue, consider diverse perspectives, and strive for trade policies that promote sustainable economic growth and benefit all stakeholders.